Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to Paint to Life, the YouTube channel where we take tiny plastic miniatures, throw some acrylic paint onto them, and then breathe life into them with storytelling so that you might use them in your own campaign, paint along with us at home, or just enjoy a story every once in a while. And I think quarantine hair is actually a thing, and if not, it will start to be soon. I'm Atank, let's get painting. Alright, before we get started, if you like my content, please click like below, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell if you'd like notifications. I release videos every Saturday, and if it's your first time here, I hope you enjoy the story. Dungeons & Dragons is currently experiencing a surge in popularity, but that wasn't always the case. For almost 50 years, it's had quite a history, and we're going to talk about some of that. It's episode 5, and today we're going to be painting a Balor, Demon of the Abyss. Now, Balors were imposing humanoid figures that stood about 12 feet tall and weighed about as much as I do, at 4,500 pounds. They were also armed with a sword made of lightning and a large fire whip. Balors were demons that liked to break into any material plane and sow fear and chaos, and they were feared by all but the most chaotically evil of creatures. They always benefited from every pact that they made on the material plane in exchange for demonic influence, as with every follower they made or ally, a portion of that power would be reflected back into them, making them stronger. Cool creature, right? Sounds really fire. Well, when D&D was created, they borrowed heavily from other sources, myths, and legends. First published in 1974 by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, from its inception there were some legal problems. The estate of J.R.R. Tolkien sued them for copyright infringement with its franchise Lord of the Rings. Do you remember the Balrog from that franchise? Yeah, this guy. Well, here was the Dungeons & Dragons Balrog. Such similarities, I know, but they lost, so D&D had to change their hobbits to halflings, ents to treants, and Balrog to Balors. Now that is a disappointing trade. I mean, it looks like an upright raging cow. D&D's next big hurdle came in the 80s, with a wave of religious persecution. Patricia Pulling was an anti-occult campaigner from Richmond, Virginia, and she founded BADD, B-A-D-D, the Bothered About Dungeons & Dragons group. This advocacy group was dedicated to the elimination of Dungeons & Dragons and all other games like it. They thought that our innocent minds were being corrupted by the darkness. Pulling founded BADD in 1982 after her son killed himself, and she believed that his experience with Dungeons & Dragons was the source of the suicide, which was later proven to be false. Obviously, these tabletop games were acquitted, as those are ridiculous charges, and the court saw that. But I want to talk to you about the lesser-known tale about Brett Walker. Brett Walker was a boy from New Jersey who was heavily interested in role-playing games. He was growing up in the 80s with a deeply religious mother who was growing concerned about the type of critical thinking that these types of games foster. For years, she'd watched her son Brett reading and immersing himself in these stories and spending hours upon hours playing with his friends. Some nights they would play until the early morning hours, having a great time and nurturing friendships that would last for a lifetime. As Brett gained more experience with the game, he actually started to feel in sync with his character. He would openly quote his valiant warrior when dealing with bullies or handling stressful situations. It was truly great for his self-esteem and confidence. He got his first job at 15 and would later say it was his inner warrior that gave him the confidence and drive to do so. So when his great fighter met his untimely demise at the bottom of a pit trap, Brett was devastated. He was so grief-stricken, do you know what he did? Suicide? No. Jeez, no, he just asked if he could be the new dungeon master. DMing is a lot of hard work. I mean, it was the 80s. There were no cool YouTube channels like Paint to Life where you could go for inspiration. So he had to kind of make it all up on his own with the source materials that he had. Now, probably due to the taboo nature of it at the time, or the fact that it aggravated his mother so much, Brett was fascinated with the demonic aspect of the fiction. Now, referencing the source material that he had, he started writing his very own Enchiridion, referencing the Abyss and the inhabitants there. An Enchiridion is a volume of work dedicated to a certain topic. It's the big word of the video I tried to slip in. I'm probably saying it wrong too. Now, the main focus on his writing was on Gazzuloth, a Balor, who was one of the greatest generals of this demonic army. Brett loved writing Gazzuloth. He loved how the demon would reach out to mortals across all the material planes of the universe and whisper into their minds when their thoughts would drift to dark places. In exchange for sowing chaos and destruction, Gazzuloth would ensure misfortune would fall upon one's enemies. And he was good at his job. Now Brett's mother started to get a little concerned for her son. She'd find him up late at night, whispering to himself in his bed, chuckling while he jotted notes down into his source material. Now Brett was role-playing each and every weekend, and he finally introduced his campaign with Gazzuloth to his gaming group. It was a smashing success. The group loved the new villain. They loved the new content that Brett had written. The group got so fanatical that DM Brett would actually offer the players in-game rewards and powers if they would, say, help him cheat on a test at school or steal money from their parents and bring it to him. I know it sounds crazy, but his players really did appreciate the extra depth that this character brought to their game and to the process. One of those same players would later testify that the campaign was, at the time, one of the most influential moments of my young life. And despite getting busted and going to juvie for 6 months, he met new friends and started his own gaming group there, where he introduced Gazzuloth to a whole new audience. Now in his early 20s, Brett Walker had dropped out of college. He was DMing multiple groups, and he was couch hopping and living off the tributes that his players were paying him. His mother was worried sick and lost her mind when she found a rough copy of Brett's Enchiridion in his room, as well as notes of who had been committing crimes for him and what they had done. So she called and staged an intervention with Bad and her church group for that Friday night. Now Brett never showed up, but chaos did. Witnesses reported hearing a crack of lightning despite there being no clouds in the sky, which felled the tree in the backyard, which then crashed through the roof of their house and blocked the door to the stairs in the basement where the intervention group was meeting. An electrical fire broke out and no one survived. Now the New Jersey Fire Department never found any evidence of foul play, but reporters reported at the time that Brett had actually gone to D&D the night that his mother perished. Now from there he kind of fades into obscurity, not really showing up on the radar anymore. Now what does this old story have to do with today's episode? Well, the artist who modeled this miniature happens to be listed as a B. Walker. Now I called the company and found out that he had only worked there for 3 weeks, completed production on this, and watched it go into production, and then quit. They haven't heard of him since. I guess that makes this miniature Gazzuloth the Whisperer between worlds. So that ends the 5th episode of Paint to Life. I hope you will share the story of Gazzuloth with your friends by subscribing and sharing the link to this video so that he may grow in power deep in the abyss. All joking aside though, I trust you all understand the story of Brett Walker was the story of the video. This is Gazzuloth. I'm going to put him up here now on the shelf. Thank you very much for visiting my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed the content tonight. If you're painting along with us on Paint to Life and would like to hear the commentary about how I've done what I did and the choices that I made for Gazzuloth, you can find that video right up there, so feel free to give it a click and check that out. Also, if you haven't started painting miniatures yet, give it a try. I think you'll have a good time. Try calling a local hobby store. See if they have anything in stock that they could get you curbside pickup or delivery. That might get you started. So thanks again very much. I'm Atank. This is Paint to Life. Stay safe, wash your hands. We'll see you next week. I have a blizzard and you don't.